Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katy.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, powered by HomeRight Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, voted 2024 Best of the Tri-State.
Our third guest today, we have the director of the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, Sarah Hall. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
And I feel horrible saying this, but I did not know that this was down in Hagerstown.
So we're right in City Park, and it's amazing how many people tell me, that they have never been to the museum, they didn't know there was a museum, or they stumbled upon the museum because they were walking in the park or following a highway sign. But we have been there for 93 years now. We opened in 1931.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt you. When I was growing up, we would go to City Park a lot, and I remember you see the museum, and it was like, you can't go in there. When your kid's like, oh, we don't dare go in that building.
I hear really wonderful stories about kids who do come in, and technically we say kids 12 and under, you're supposed to be accompanied by a parent. But I also know that for some kids, discovering the museum opens up a whole new world for them.
Sure.
And as long as they are well behaved, I think our guards usually don't, interfere too much. It's kind of a safe haven, and I've heard wonderful stories from people that I've met who have said, I grew up near there, I didn't have a lot of supervision, I found the museum, and I kind of saw a different way of being.
Absolutely.
You were saying off air as well that it's kind of a rarity,
yes.
A museum such as this. I can't think of anything near here that other than the big things in D.C.
Right,
and
exactly.
the big cities. But as far as just an area like ours, it is unique.
We are the only fine arts museum for about 65 miles. We are nationally accredited. We have a really strong, important collection, wonderful pieces, things that are internationally and nationally significant, as well as a lot of Maryland artists and a lot of local stories that we tell through our collection as well. But yeah, I feel really strongly that particularly when we're talking about kids, up in Pennsylvania and in West Virginia, areas that it's further away from DC, they all should be coming to this museum because it's a great learning experience and it opens eyes.
And it's free.
We are free. Many museums now charge, $15 to $20 per person admission. And I don't want to sort of belittle them for that because,
have to make money.
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
We have to put together an income. And so the way we do that, philanthropy is huge. People becoming members of the museum, donors supporting our work, state grants, other kinds of granting agencies, a little bit through, retail sales at the museum shop, some facility rentals, weddings and things. But it's, we came through COVID strong because we weren't depending on that gate. Museums that were depending on sort of like a ticket admission had a much harder time, but because our money comes in through a variety of ways, and it allows us to be free. It's wonderful.
How many objects and paintings and artifacts do you have?
We usually say, between 6,500 and 7,000, and I give that we count. We do have things very carefully recorded, but sometimes things get double numbered, or you have multiple things given one ID number or something like that. So. It's maybe not as accurate a number as I should be giving you.
Ask this before I forget. What is the most valuable piece that you have?
They're all valuable. I'm not, we're not really allowed to talk about value, but for security purposes.
Sure. Give me a number.
Truth is that everything is irreplaceable. That we have theoretically. We have some really major pieces. Somebody once said, "What's your Mona Lisa?" And I think there's kind of a couple of options. We have a Norman Rockwell, and that's a wonderful, wonderful story of our museum director, Bruce Etchison, at the time writing to Norman Rockwell and saying, our museum is a perfect home for one of your paintings, and actually, getting at a good price because of communicating directly with the artist. So we have a Norman Rockwell, the oculist, all of the charm and everything you expect to see in Norman Rockwell. The painting that really knocked me out when I first visited, and I interviewed for the job in the depths of COVID, was the very first day you could travel between states. I came in and I was given a tour of the museum, which was completely locked down, and there is this fabulous Thomas Moran landscape. He's in New Jersey looking at Manhattan, and it's an industrial landscape, which is really unusual for this artist who's known for painting Yosemite and all sorts of grandiose views of like unspoiled nature in the West. And this is an industrial view, and it's just breathtaking. It's a beautiful painting. Take us through
I haven't been. So take us through how many different rooms or exhibits do you have?
I think we actually have 8 different galleries. We usually have 2 different temporary exhibitions up at a time. So you can come in and you can see our permanent collection. We have old master paintings. We have a series of galleries we call American Narratives that goes from late 18th century through to generally mid 20th century. We need to start buying some more contemporary things. The kids who come from HCC are looking for more contemporary things to write papers about. But then we always have 2 temporary exhibitions up at a time. Right now we have Floating Beauty, a Women in the Art of Ukiyo-e, which is that term in Japanese means floating world, and it was actually the pleasure districts in Edo, which is now Tokyo, where people went to see plays and visit courtesans, and so they're wonderful. If you think of Japanese prints, that's what you're picturing as prints from this time period.
What are some upcoming events that you have?
Well, I think I'm technically supposed to be here to promote our treasure sale.
I know you
which
do
is
the
one.
treasure,
It
yes.
is one of. So I talked about income. The treasure sale is actually one of our biggest fundraisers of the year, and we have a volunteer group, the Singer Society. That's over 100 folks who donate their time to helping the museum succeed and supporting our work. And this is their biggest endeavor of the year. So I call it a win-win-win. So people donate to the treasure sale, people who are downsizing, people who are just cleaning the garage. They donate to the treasure sale, and so they feel good because they're donating to benefit the museum. The folks in the Singer Society go through and clean and price it. I mean, it's months. They do this beginning in June. Yeah. And then all of the stuff comes into the atrium of the museum. It is like the biggest, best sort of high-end flea market you will ever go to. Ooh. So the preview party is next Friday, the 1st, from 5 to 8. We do that's ticketed. We charge $50 for non-members at the museum, $45 for members, and you get sort of first crack at things, right? So we have wine and hors d'oeuvres, but you also can just buy whatever you want on Friday night and kind of get in there before the crowds.
Katie, just come for the wine and hors d'oeuvres?
You don't have to buy.
we talked about this. We talked about this recently
in
this event. So I love hearing all these more in-depth details.
It's a lot of fun. So I shop there too. So I bought a pasta maker. I have bought different kinds of dishware. I've bought prints and paintings. I bought a fancy vintage coat for when I want to be glamorous at the museum. So you'll find all sorts of things there, and it's lots of fun. And then it's open to the public on Saturday. Let me get the hours right, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, November 2nd. Anybody can come in, no admission. And then on Sunday, from 1 to 4, they do some markdowns. So not everything, there are some things that are just too good to make too much of a deal, but we do $25 a bag for the other kinds of merchandise. So we provide the bags so that they're all consistent size, but people can go through and kind of find what they love. And then we go down on Tuesday the 5th. So we're closed Monday the 4th, but on Tuesday the 5th, that drops down to $15 a bag, and we're open 10 to 1, closing out the sale. And so it is one of our biggest fundraisers. We generally make about $40,000 for this.
So, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Is it cash only, or are there?
No, you can use cards. Yeah, absolutely. And we have a whole team. I mean, the volunteers put so much work into this. It is an amazingly well-oiled machine.
It sounds
and
like
then the whole staff is there for the weekend supporting as well.
Do all the artifacts in the treasure sale come from this county? Are they local?
No, actually, this is funny because I came from Pittsburgh, and there is a friend of ours in Pittsburgh who always sends things with me. Figures out a way to get them to me. So, the majority of people who are donating are in this area and relatively close. And actually, for large things, we'll send somebody. The cutoff has happened this year. October 15th was the cutoff for taking in material. But we help people. Like if people are downsizing, we've gone in and helped people.
Absolutely. I'm sure as you're cleaning out a house, you find all these heirlooms and something that you think, I bet this is worth something.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not sure what to do with it. You don't just want to.
It's as I said, it's like win-win-win, because the person who's donating is supporting the museum, feels good, gets something good done. The person who's buying is happy and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and the museum is benefiting. Yeah,
that's amazing.
When it comes to the sales, this is a question I didn't even think that I would ask until it just popped in my head. The museum, because you were saying about how maybe trying to get some contemporary pieces and maybe a goal of yours, but does the museum ever sell items, or is it frowned upon?
So let me tell you a little bit about. I love talking to people about museum work and the way we do our jobs. So when something enters our collection, it's a formal process called accessioning. It gets assigned a specific inventory number. We have an electronic database. Sometimes museums do decide, like, okay, we have 30 Renoirs, we don't need 30 Renoirs. Or you know what, we just bought a better Renoir. So we were going to keep the good example and, deaccession. So the formal process of removing something from your collection is called deaccessioning, and you have to justify it. You have to write a report explaining why it's being deaccessioned. You have to go to your collections committee of your board. Everyone has to approve that. Once it's removed, the rules are, if you sell something from your collection, that money has to be used to build the collection. You are not allowed to use it for operational expenses. And when we go through an annual audit, your collection is never valued. It is not considered a financial asset, and that way it's completely protected. So
you do.
We can, and in fact, we just sold a piece. It was actually a pretty nice piece, but it was redundant. We had another better piece by the artist. We were told by Sotheby's, the auction house, that there is a market for this artist in London. So we sent it over to London and auctioned it. We made about $24,000. And I'm really excited that, we have made a pledge that we will look for work by a living underrepresented artist to add to the, or maybe 2 or 3 pieces for $24,000.
So do you typically let another entity handle the selling process, or so it's not like you?
It really depends. It really depends. Sometimes the works are not particularly valuable, or they're in really bad condition, and so that's part of the deaccession process. It's a kind of nasty sounding word, disposal. How you're going to, what happens to the piece is, does it just go to a local auction house? Does it? And there are rules, like board members and staff members are not allowed to buy, because you could obviously be using your personal interest to be to get something like, oh, gee, the museum doesn't need that anymore. So there are a lot of rules surrounding that. Sometimes you transfer something to another museum or nonprofit that is a better home for it.
Even a trade, perhaps.
Yeah, when I was working in Pittsburgh, somebody donated a number of things. We had to take everything in their donation, and one of them was a ticket booth from a movie theater, which we had absolutely no need for. It sat in the basement, and we ended up transferring it to someone who was restoring a historic theater. So you can sometimes find a better home for things. And in the worst case, maybe something is really badly damaged. Maybe it's a forgery and it's going to cause issues on the market. In very, very rare cases, items are actually destroyed rather than going back out into the market.
After you wrap up the treasure sale, then you have holiday nights at the museum?
Yes, so we started this last year. It occurred to me one day, because I live on historic South Prospect Street, and right near the museum, and they do the holiday lights in City Park, and it occurred to me the first winter I was here, lots of people are going down to see those lights. We should try to be open some in the evenings for when families are going down to look at the lights. So last year we created holiday Fridays or December Fridays, and we were open. It all depends on the timing of Christmas, really, how many Fridays you get in December before the holiday. But this year we have City Park tree lighting is December 6th. That is always really super busy.
Yes.
I would say if you want to really spend time with the art, it is not the night to come, because sometimes we'll get 1,500 people in the museum, and trying to give them, because a lot of them are first-time museum visitors too, trying to give them a good experience. But that's light up night. And then the 13th, we're doing a sort of kid-focused evening with a hot chocolate bar. We'll have some storybook reading, some kid-focused collection experiences. We've been doing, because of the Japanese print show, we've been doing things like origami and fish prints and things like that connect to Japanese culture with kids. And then the next night, which would be the 20th, we have, we're open till 8 and anybody can come. I'm not saying don't bring kids on the 20th, but we're going to do like a Prosecco cocktail and adult level sort of tours of the exhibitions.
You were really hitting on all the experiences for Katy.
I don't know how I haven't been here before,
Right.
but
it is
plenty of experiences for me to partake in.
Museums, I've seen it. I've been working in museums 30 years, and they still remain wonderful places to go for contemplation and thoughtfulness. Absolutely. And being reminded of beauty and the accomplishments of mankind or personkind. But they also have become much more social and community hubs. And so we try to bring people together, and we connect the art too. So people are learning a little bit, they're having a good time, they're spending time with family, they're having conversations in the museum. Mm-hmm. It's a trend, and it's really important. I think museums are kind of becoming community centers.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and make sure you check out the website. Can you just plug the website for us quickly?
Sure, wcmfa.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah, for spending some time with us.
Thank you both.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.